Good evening, travelers of the depths. This is Ethan. Have you ever felt the weight of secrets? Today, we will dive into the twists and turns of consciousness, where past and present, reality and fiction intertwine. Prepare to discover a dwelling where walls hide forgotten stories and where the abyss of madness reveals itself in all its darkness.
The old mansion stood before me, majestic despite the years that had left their mark on its stone walls. Lost in the snowy mountains, it seemed both welcoming and mysterious. Claire and I had inherited this house from my Uncle Gabriel, a man I knew as a child, but never saw again. The journey to the house had been long and contemplative. The snowy mountains stood proudly, their peaks disappearing into the clouds. Claire, with her sparkling eyes and insatiable curiosity, tried to break the silence.
Alex, have you ever visited this region before? It has something magical, don't you think?
Yes, I remember the stories my uncle used to tell me, but that was so long ago. Everything seems different now. Claire moved closer to me, taking my hand in hers.
Maybe this change is what you need. A fresh start, away from everything. And who knows, maybe this house will give you the inspiration you're looking for.
I nodded, grateful for Claire's unwavering support. You might be right, I replied, squeezing her hand. I'm ready to try anything. We soon arrived at our destination and could gaze upon the surrounding forest. The trees, mainly oaks and firs, were so tall they seemed to touch the sky. The undergrowth was a carpet of shadows, interrupted only by the sun's rays that managed to pierce the canopy. Upon arriving at the house, we were greeted by a large oak door, adorned with intricate motifs. The interior was just as impressive. Ancient tapestries and a monumental fireplace dominated the living room. Since our arrival, we had spent most of our time unpacking and trying to bring life to this dwelling that seemed dormant for years. One evening, as I lost myself in thought in front of the fireplace, a memory came back to me. My Uncle Gabriel, sitting in his armchair, telling me about an ancient legend. He spoke of a mist-covered forest where trees whispered secrets to lost travelers. Those who ventured there were guided to a hidden dwelling where they faced trials. The way he told this story always gave me goosebumps. As I sat in front of my screen, desperately seeking inspiration, Claire entered the room.
Alex, you've been torturing yourself for days. Why not take a break and explore the house?
Intrigued by her words, I stood up, determined to explore the uncharted rooms of this vast mansion. The wooden floors creaked under my steps, each sound amplified by the prevailing silence. I felt both at home and alien in this house. I continued to wander, letting my intuition guide me. The rooms followed one after the other, each with its own character. Some walls were adorned with oil paintings depicting mountainous landscapes. The solid wood furniture testified to period craftsmanship, and large red velvet curtains elegantly hung from the windows.
As Alex progressed down the corridor, a haunting and nostalgic melody captivated him. He stopped in front of a table on which a delicately opened music box stood. The figurine inside emitted this melody that seemed to awaken distant memories.
Suddenly I was transported to another era. I stood in a child's room, the walls adorned with pastel motifs and soft shades of blue and pink. A woman, her cheeks wet with tears, faced me. She leaned towards me, her hands trembling, and whispered muffled words. I could see the distress in her eyes, and as she moved forward, her voice became increasingly shrill. The vision abruptly dissipated, bringing me back to the reality of the corridor. A feeling of unease overcame me. Not understanding the meaning of this vision, I continued my exploration. As I ascended to the first floor, I felt a slight breeze, as if a window had been left open. But there was no window, only a slightly ajar door at the end of the corridor. I approached slowly, driven by growing curiosity. The door led to Uncle Gabriel's library. The shelves were filled with old books, maps of his travels, and in the center stood a large, solid wood desk. I approached the desk, drawn to an open book. The words seemed to dance on the page, forming sentences that evoked distant places, incredible adventures. I lost myself in reading, forgetting time and space. I looked up and noticed a painting I hadn't seen before. The frame seemed out of place. Intrigued, I approached and discovered a hidden mechanism behind the painting. Activating it, a section of the wall pivoted, revealing a secret door. My heart raced. The room was dark, but I could make out shelves filled with old books and enigmatic engravings on the walls. A strange energy seemed to emanate from this place. "This is incredible," I whispered to myself. Claire was right. This house held many mysteries. As I entered the secret library, I was enveloped by a mystical aura. The shelves, laden with ancient books, seemed to whisper forgotten stories. The air was heavy, as if the walls themselves held ancestral secrets. Driven by sudden inspiration, I decided to isolate myself there. This place, with its scent of old parchments and absolute calm, seemed to be the perfect refuge for writing. With a deep breath, I took out my pen and let it dance across the paper, the words flowing effortlessly, as if guided by the room itself. While deeply immersed in my writing, a chilling sensation ran down my neck. I felt eyes on me. Looking up, I came across an ancient mirror, adorned with a golden frame. How could I have missed it? I saw in the mirror the reflection of a strange scene, a child's room with a crib in the center. I recognized the room. It was my own childhood room. I saw the silhouette of a woman who slowly turned around, and I recognized my own mother, who had been gone for years. She looked at me with eyes filled with sadness, then pointed to the crib. Inside, there was a crying baby, but its cries were muffled, distant.
Alex, upset, backed away, tripping over a pile of books. He rubbed his eyes, hoping it was just an illusion. But the mirror was still there, reflecting the same heartbreaking scene. He got up hastily, leaving the room, the secret door closing behind him with a muffled rumble. He realized that the room had the power to materialize his deepest memories. He decided not to return, at least for the time being. Meanwhile, Claire, exhausted from the day, had fallen asleep in their room, unaware of the strange events unfolding next door. Disturbed by his discovery, Alex had chosen to keep this room a secret, even from Claire. He preferred that she remain unaware of this hiding place for now.
The days that followed were filled with a tension I could feel at every moment. I was haunted by the vision of the mirror, by that room from my childhood, and the ghostly face of my mother. An idea began to take root in my mind. If I could rewrite my story, could I change the past? Could I erase my mistakes? With unspeakable hope, I returned to the secret library. Sitting at my desk, I prepared to delve into the depths of my mind, to confront my inner demons. I began to rewrite my novel, inserting fragments of my own existence, hoping that it might, in some way, change reality. The revelation hit me full force, like lightning in a clear sky. The memories I had carefully buried resurfaced. I recalled that tragic night, the car accident, and my mother's ultimate sacrifice to protect me. I had always believed it was a simple accident, but the truth was much darker and more terrible. A violent argument had erupted between my mother and me. In a moment of madness and uncontrollable rage, it was I who had turned the wheel, causing the accident that took my mother's life.
Alex felt the ground give way beneath him. A heaviness settled on his chest, and he saw himself, young and carefree, causing the accident that took his mother's life. Guilt, shame, and regret overwhelmed him, flooding him with emotional pain he had never felt before. But as he finished the last paragraph, something terrifying happened. The walls of the library began to shake, and the shelves started to move on their own. Books fell one by one, as if pushed by an invisible force. A chilling gust filled the room, extinguishing the candles and plunging Alex into darkness. He then heard a muffled scream coming from upstairs. It was Claire's voice. Despite the fear that gripped him, he rushed out of the library, following the sound of Claire's voice, which seemed to come from their bedroom.
As I opened the door, I was confronted with a nightmarish vision. Claire was suspended in the air, her feet not touching the ground. Her eyes rolled back. Around her, a dark aura pulsed, and a deep, threatening voice echoed in the room.
You cannot change the past, Alexander.
Look at what you have done.
Horrified by Claire's transformation, he took a step back. Her skin was pale, almost translucent, and her voice had changed, taking on a deep and distant tone. Her eyes, once a bright blue, were now a deep black, without pupils. She floated a few inches off the ground, her hair floating around her like snakes.
Alexander, you betrayed me.
She murmured in a voice that was not her own. Alexander felt his heart tighten. It was his mother's voice, full of pain and reproach. He stammered, tears in his eyes.
Mom, I'm sorry. I would give anything to go back.
Claire, or rather the spirit possessing her, burst into sinister laughter.
It's too late for regrets, my son. You must pay for what you've done.
Without thinking, I rushed to my desk and grabbed my manuscript. I began to write frantically, describing a scene where the protagonist, confronted by a vengeful spirit, found the right words to soothe its anger and free it from its grip. I wrote with such intensity that the words seemed to come alive on the paper.
As he finished the last sentence, the room was filled with a blinding white light. Claire, freed from the spirit's grip, fell to the floor, slowly regaining her senses. Alexander rushed to her side, taking her in his arms.
Claire, are you okay?
He asked, concerned. Claire, still in shock, nodded. Alex woke up with a start, his heart racing. He was lying in his bed, the sheets soaked with sweat. The room was silent, bathed in soft morning light. He took a moment to gather his thoughts. It had all been a dream.
I turned to Claire, who was sleeping peacefully beside me. I gently touched her face, relieved to see her safe. Everything I had experienced, the secret library, the vengeful spirit, her possession, it was all just a nightmare. Yet, it had seemed so real, so intense. I got up, still shaken by the emotions of the night. I walked to the window, looking out at the surrounding forest. Everything seemed peaceful, as if none of it had ever happened.
Deep down, Alex knew that this dream was a warning, a message from his subconscious, reminding him of his terrible mistake. He knew he could no longer keep this heavy secret to himself. He had to confess to Claire the truth about that tragic night, about the accident, about his guilt.
I sat on the edge of the bed, taking Claire's hand. She woke up slowly, her eyes searching for mine. Claire, I began, my voice trembling. There's something I need to tell you. I told her everything, every detail of the accident. Claire listened in silence, and when I finished, she took me in her arms, holding me tight.
Alex, tears in his eyes, held her close, seeking redemption in her love and understanding. They both knew the path to healing would be long, but they were ready to walk it together. They had made the decision to leave this place, to leave behind the shadows of the past and seek a new beginning.
Do you think you'll ever forget all of this?
In time, I think I will.
Alex, while driving, gave her a reassuring look. But as they exchanged these words, Claire violently grabbed the steering wheel, causing the car to swerve off its path. Alexander desperately tried to regain control, but it was too late. The car violently crashed into a tree off the side of the road. As the dust settled, thick black smoke began to rise from the burning wreckage of the car. Severely injured and trapped in the burning vehicle, Alex desperately tried to regain his senses.
All around me, the world seemed slowed down. The stifling heat and the flames licking the inside of the car made the air unbreathable. I turned my head towards Claire. Her face was unrecognizable, distorted by the impact of the crash. Despite this, her eyes were eerily clear, staring at me with an icy intensity. In a jolt, she gripped my hand tightly.
Did you think you could escape your past, Alexander? Did you think you could escape the abyss?
Eyes wide, I tried to respond, but no sound came out of my mouth. I suddenly realized it wasn't Claire speaking. It was my own conscience. Reality blended with imagination, and I understood that I had lost control, not only of the car, but also of my own reality.
Regrets, guilt, all of it had pushed Alex to the brink of madness, and as the flames drew closer, he closed his eyes, accepting his fate and hoping to find peace in the beyond. Here we are, back on the surface, after diving deep into the depths of Alex's soul. Ah, dear listeners, the human conscience is a tortuous labyrinth, isn't it? Alex tried to resist, but when faced with the abyss, he lost his footing in reality. This story reminds us that our secrets, however buried they may be, one day demand to be revealed. And there you have it, dear listeners, the end of our journey for today. Until our next descent into the depths, keep an open mind and a curious heart. See you soon in the abyss.